Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Cabinet. Before we move on to the agenda items, can I draw your attention to the information displayed on the screen and also on the front of the agenda? I particularly want everyone to note the fire and emergency procedures. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave through the front of the Council House when you came in or where you came in and gather at the other side of the Council House car park. Finally, please can you ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. Thank you. Right, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillors Downey, Jordan and Darcy. Can I ask those of you present now whether you have any declarations of interest on any of the items on the agenda this afternoon? None declared? Okay, thank you. Next item then, I'll ask you to review and indicate you're happy with the minutes of the meeting, of our meeting on the 25th of July last, and confirm that they are a correct record. Agreed. Everyone happy? Agreed? Thank you. Questions from the public. I have one question from a member of Parliament, Mr. Emery, who won't be attending this afternoon to read out his question. Councillor Nicholson, would you like to read out the question and the response?
Well, he's not present.
Don't need to?
No.
Right, okay. But we will send a response on to Mr. Emery. Right, thank you. I have no items of Chair's urgent business, so we can move to agenda item 6 on the agenda, which is the latest situation report on establishing a strategic partnership with Torbay Council to deliver children's services. Welcome, Alison and Carol, this afternoon. Would you like to present the latest state of play? Thank you.
Okay. I think that most Cabinet members are aware that we have been in discussions via the Children's Commissioner, also including Department for Education and with Torbay. And the Children's Commissioner is currently the Chief Executive for Hampshire County Council. He was appointed by the Department of Education to work alongside Torbay, who since January last year, 2016, in their Ofsted single inspection, were rated as inadequate. Therefore, he was appointed as Children's Commissioner, which meant that as well as overseeing their improvement, he would be asked by the Department of Education to make a recommendation about the sustainability and rate of improvement in Torbay, and consider how that could be achieved. And I think at the beginning of this year, 2017, having chaired and continuing to chair their Children's Improvement Board, he came to a view that in order to sustain change, given the previous history in Torbay of an inadequate inspection back in 2010, that he would want to recommend that Torbay Council on their own would not be in a position to deliver improved and sustained improved children's services. He therefore, back at the beginning of this year, asked for expressions of interest in the region to other authorities about whether they would be interested in embarking on a strategic partnership. And having considered other expressions of interest in the region, he came to a view in April that the best match would be with Plymouth. And he made a recommendation to the Department for Education, then Minister, back in April, that Plymouth were in a position to offer a strategic partnership to Torbay. And the new minister, after the election, came back and endorsed his recommendation. So work has been ongoing over this period to look at an overall heads of term and some of the foundations and principles that would underpin such a partnership. So today we are looking to a series of recommendations that are set out how we would move forward with that recommendation. So we will be seeking via full council later on in September an in principle agreement to proceed to a strategic partnership. And there are other wider partnership issues being considered by Torbay in terms of the overall running of their services as a council, not just their children's services, that may impact on both the recommendation from the Commissioner and Plymouth City Council's position. But in light of that possibility, which I think we now expect, Torbay Council, the paper in front of you suggests the 13th of September. I think we now expect that's the 27th of September when Torbay will have considered their options and expect to be able to announce a clearer view of their overall way forward. But in anticipation of that, we would recommend that that we go to full council for a decision in principle, and that before that happens there will be an wellbeing overview and scrutiny committee which will have scrutinised the recommendation in advance of that, with a view that then if there is an in principle agreement, as I say, depending on Torbay Council's position at the end of September, if those two things fit together, that then full council would be seeking a confirmed decision before the end of the year. I think those are probably the key things to highlight at this point and the recommendations.
Thank you, Alison. Carol, do you want to add anything?
No, I think Alison's covered everything, but I'm happy to pick up any questions.
Okay, thank you. Chief Executive, do you want to say anything at this stage?
Just a few words. As you would imagine, from the point in March where the Children's Commissioner first approached us about this matter, there has been a significant amount of due diligence and work behind the scenes to understand the situation, and the view of the Children's Commissioner is that we do form a very good fit with Torbay. Clearly, if you are minded to agree an in-principle decision which would be endorsed, we'd seek the endorsement of full council on that basis. There is still quite a considerable amount of work to do to move to the final decision in December. Alison's highlighted the wider issue for Torbay, which is they are looking at their strategic partnerships for the future, and I think it's our view that in terms of making sure that fit is clear and lines of accountability are strong, that actually if Torbay's future strategic partner lies in a different direction, then actually our thinking is that we'd want to clearly consider where that leaves us in terms of a partnership in children's services. And therefore I think the timing is quite helpful in many ways, that Torbay will have a look at that. They will come to a view, we understand, by the end of September. The Children's Commissioner, because actually it is the Children's Commissioner's decision, not Torbay's decision in terms of children's services, that he will make a final decision following the Torbay decision on their strategic partnership. So we're asking for an in-principle decision which really confirms, cements our strong partnership to move forward. A lot of work to be done. You'll see a number of principles in there, particularly around making sure that the safety and well-being of our children can't be compromised in moving forward. But I think we agree that there is a good fit. And sector-led improvement is important, that unitary authorities are able to support others in that improvement journey. So I think we do see ourselves, not just the Commissioner, but we see ourselves the opportunities that this would create for us both.
Thank you, Tracy. So there you have it. You'll all be aware of the ongoing nature of this work in the last few weeks. Does anyone have any questions they want to still not clear about, or any other clarification at this stage? Councillor Spear.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Just some clarity in and around that we haven't gone in too far yet, that if there is an issue we could pull back from this and not go through with the plan. I think that's important that everybody is aware of that situation.
Clearly there's a lot of ongoing work, and what we're asking for is an in-principle decision to progress. but you will make a final decision. We'll ask for you to make a final decision towards the end of this calendar year. So no, this isn't the final time that you'll get to consider that. And also the nature of the partnership, the nature of the agreement. There's a lot to work through. I think what is very positive is that in terms of the relationship, having the Children's Commissioner being the Chief Executive from Hampshire, they already have an existing relationship with the Isle of Wight. So we're not starting with a blank piece of paper about how this might actually operate in practice. There is a lot of support, and there's also ongoing dialogue with the Department for Education and their involvement in making sure that this is appropriate in moving forward. So they are very much a part of the ongoing conversations. So, but Alison, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I don't think so, other than to say that I think we've been clear throughout that in order to proceed with a full partnership, we would absolutely have to be in agreement. So, we will be doing the due diligence to make sure we're satisfied that that is something we can support and recommend. If we do come in December, then it will be having done a great deal of detailed work to ensure it's a partnership. And as Tracy has said, that doesn't in any way compromise the service that we provide to children and young people in Plymouth, but offers opportunities to develop better services both for Torbay and in Plymouth.
That's very reassuring. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Right, can I just draw your attention then to the recommendations in the report that you're asked to agree to? Let me go through them. That we agree in principle to progress the development of a partnership with Torbay Council to run its children's services, working with Torbay Council and the Commissioner for Children's Services and under the auspices of the Department for Education to develop a detailed partnership agreement. Secondly, delegates to the Chief Executive, in consultation with the Leader of the Opposition and myself, the development of the detailed partnership agreement. Thirdly, request the Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Committee to examine and debate the proposal in September 2017 and provide any feedback to the Council meeting on the 25th of September 2017. Fourthly, recommends that the Council endorses the Cabinet's in-principle decision at its meeting on the 25th of September 17, subject to continuing support for a strategic partnership with Plymouth City Council to deliver Torbay Council's children's services following the latter Council's meeting, we now think on the 27th of September. And lastly, that we should receive a further report later in 2017 following the due diligence exercise and seek further endorsement from the Council, that's Plymouth City Council, before any binding decision is made. You're all comfortable with that? Can I ask you to support those recommendations? Thank you, that's unanimously. Thank you. Right. Alison, Carol, thank you very much for that. We'll move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the Capital and Revenue Monitoring Report for Q1. Councillor Darcy is struggling to make this afternoon, so let me deal with this. And Andrew, I see there you're in the background there as well. You've all seen this report. You'll be aware that the forecast overspend for what is at the end of June 17, the end of the Q1, is 4.259 million, which is 1.23% variance over the approved budget. Clearly reflects the significant financial challenges faced by the Council, remembering, of course, that we are having to deliver in excess of £18 million of saving this financial year, having already delivered £24 million of reduction in the last year. This is early in the financial year, so time is available for an action plan. Clearly, we will need to put measures in place to try to bring that potential overspend down. And let me stress that overspend is on the assumption that if we do nothing between here and the end of next March, then that will be the position. Clearly, we're not going to do nothing between here and the end of March. The main budget pressure is within People Directorate, which reflects cost and volume pressures. Pressures within children's services are due to increased costs of placements and not due to increases in the number of placements. There's an important distinction there. The Place Directorate is reporting pressures of around £1.2 million, and obviously are looking at that, and something just over £1.1 million pressures are within transformation and change. Clearly, as Cabinet members, I expect you to be working closely with your directors and assistant directors to make sure that we keep absolutely on top of this. There's no let up here, I'm afraid. This is a relentless process, and we won't get to a balanced position next year if we don't stay absolutely focused on balancing the revenue budget. There may well be some difficult decisions lying ahead, but I know that each of you has shown thus far that you're very well able to deal with that, and as a Cabinet, I'm sure we will come up with measures to deal with the revenue budget issues. In terms of the capital programme, you will see that 1 year has now dropped off and 1 year has been added on, so that the total level of the capital spending, the capital programme, is some £836 million, taking into account the period up to 2021/22. There are some recommendations in Councillor Darcy's report, which ask you to note the current revenue monitoring position and the action plans that are in place to reduce and mitigate the shortfalls. I ask you to approve some budget environment proposals, that's shown in table 4 of the report, and to approve the capital budget of £836 million that I was referring to just earlier on. That's in table 5 of the report. Before I ask any questions, Andrew, do you want to add anything at this stage?
Leader, no, you've given a very comprehensive overview, so I've nothing further to add. I'll deal with any questions if members have anything to raise.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any questions, either that fall within your portfolio or across the Council's spending programmes? Any questions? No? Happy? Well, I can't say happy, but nevertheless, we're used to dealing with this. This is what I was alluding to earlier on. This is nothing new. We used to working within this cycle, and as I've said, the key here is to stay focused and work as a team, and I'm sure that you will do that. So, if there are no questions, then can I ask you, please, then, if you will indicate your agreement to accept the recommendations in the report? Thank you. That's unanimous. So we can move on to the final item this afternoon, which is the Corporate Performance Monitoring Report, equally for Q1 of 2017/18. And at this point, I welcome Rob to the table. Welcome, Rob. Good to see you. Can you take us through the salient points, please?
Thank you, Leader. I will do indeed. What you have in front of you is the Q1 update of the corporate plan, which provides an overview of activity and performance between April and June 2017. The key headline is that the Council remains on track with the majority of its activity, and there has been some significant progress in Q1. The report also highlights some of the challenges facing the Council at the moment. There have been some really significant activity in this quarter, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of some of those key achievements. Within the growing vision of the corporate plan, we note the establishment of the Plymouth Education Board to drive improvement for education attainment in the city and also within the region. The board brings together key parts of the school improvement system and will link in with the sub-regional improvement board. Also within the growing vision, regarding the building of new homes, we report on 8 completed new home schemes, with 15 more currently under construction. There have been some challenges reported in this report with regard to 2 of the larger sites, and these have been noted. However, we are able to report that 600 new home completions this financial year are still being projected. Within the caring vision, we report that the Plymouth City Council area has been selected to receive a review of its health and social care system by the Care Quality Commission in December 2017. We are all aware of the pressures facing services across the health and social care system, and particularly in relation to the performance challenge of reducing the number of delayed transfers of care. There's an awful lot of work going on in that area at the moment to reduce those. And finally, within the confident vision of the corporate plan, we report on the introduction of alternate weekly waste collections, which went live in May 2017, and a notable success following implementation. All areas of the city are now receiving this service, and there is strong engagement and investment from staff. However, such a significant change is never without challenges, and the impact on increasing contacts to the council's community customer services team regarding this new service has been noted in this report, as the council strives to deliver excellent services within a challenging environment. I think those are the key successes and challenges within the report in front of you.
Many thanks, Rob. I wonder if I could ask the Chief Executive just to give us a little more detail about the Plymouth Education Board. This is a body you may not be thoroughly familiar with yet. And Tracy, could you just sort of update us a little bit more, please? Thank you.
Yes, Leader, no problem. The Education Board has just recently been established. It's had one meeting in shadow form and is due to meet in a few weeks' time for its first inaugural meeting. Across the country, more and more places are setting up education boards, and their purpose is very much about bringing education systems for places, for cities, for communities together to try and really look at how you improve achievement and attainment for our young people across the city. So it has a variety of people on the board, and also has representation from the Regional Schools Commissioner, and that's very important because of the relationship that the Regional Schools Commissioner has with academies within the city. So we are very much at the start of working in a slightly different way across the city, but that focus on improving and driving up achievement and attainment for our young people is absolutely a strong focus for us all. And I've been really pleased with the response that we've had from key partners about their willingness to engage in a slightly different way across the city to do that. So hopefully more to report in the future, Leader.
Thank you, Tracy. I must say I do welcome the establishment of this board. I think some of the GCSE results that we saw this year give us some cause for concern. You know, we do have to take an overview of the city here rather than just the specific performance of one school or nothing. So I'm assuming the board will take all that sort of thing into account, and a report come back to Cabinet at some point.
Yes, I think that's very important that it does, and certainly one of the items on the agenda, as you would imagine, for September will be the GCSE and A-level results for the city. And I think that point around the city system and the city as all the partners supporting each other to drive up improvement is absolutely valid. There is a huge amount of work happening. It's not to say that there isn't, and this isn't cutting across that work, but this is actually looking for the first time really at the whole system for the city, and as I say, is fully supported by the Regional Schools Commissioner, and not only will you have a report, but the work of the Education Standards Board will also feed into a wider board that the Regional Schools Commissioner will chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Cabinet colleagues, Rob very accurately drew attention to a couple of other issues that he flagged up. There was around the delivery of new homes, around a review of health and social care system by the Care Quality Commission, and talked about the impact on customer services of the alternate weekly waste collection regime. Anybody have any queries or questions, or are you all fully up to speed with the background there? Yeah. Councillor Nicholson?
Happy to comment. Rob obviously referred to the plan for homes, and clearly there, with any overarching plan, there are constraints that one comes across when delivering schemes. So the three that have slightly slipped are because of really extenuating circumstances of certainly St Maurice Road, Prince Maurice Road rather, in the centre of the city. It was all around principally a development partner and wanting to review the plans that had previously been submitted and approved. So there were changes to the layout of the scheme. On the other two, I think it's principally the problem of developing inner city sites, and really there not being a great deal of competition for the delivery of some of these quite difficult brownfield sites. So things are progressing, obviously with the City Council's support. I think more widely on housing provision, we should look at the benefits of the joint local plan that's now been submitted to government, and the numerous additional sites owned by third parties, so principally private landowners, and the fact that we are, through the planning service, trying to drive some of those developments. So there's a lot of pre-application activity in the department at the moment. Planning applications are going well. So in terms of our income from planning fees, it's very positive, and we just need to continue that momentum to actually see planning applications turn to planning permissions, turn to on-site development. So that's really positive. And if I may, Leader, just touch on strategic transport.
Please do.
Clearly, strategic transport, again, does have an impact in its implementation on the public, and we're very aware of the impact that that has and trying to minimise impact to the travelling public. But just to reinforce the importance of getting these strategic transport schemes delivered to sustain a population of 300,000. And generally, if I take Deep Lane, it's not particularly an excellent scheme in terms of its delivery. It took far longer than I think many elected members and the travelling public wanted to see. But the results of that investment are clear for everybody to see who uses that junction. So we have to bite the bullet and continue with these inward investment measures to the strategic transport network of the city, and hopefully they will be delivered in future in a timely manner with as little impact on the public as possible. But clearly there is always going to be an impact. But we're doing well on attracting funds from the LEP and from Highways England. I think it's important to continue to drive that investment in the coming 2 or 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, I was going to ask you, Carol. Go on. You're probably going to say the same thing. Go on. Yeah, over to you.
Do you want to ask your question first? Because I'm sure it'd be on the same
well,
thing.
I was just going to ask, you probably guessed what I was going to ask, really. I was, the Health Quality Care Commission review, any idea when it's likely to take place, and how realistic are those targets that we're being asked to try to deliver in terms of delayed transfers of care?
I just decided that I needed to say something about that very thing, so I must have been reading your mind at that point. I was going to refer members to page 25, which, as you say, is the point where it actually lays down the figures. Rob has very helpfully taken all of the material that's now come through and been able to pin down for us exactly what it means the new requirements are for us as a system. And you can see the challenging targets that we've now got in place. So those 3 bullet points in the middle. And I think at the last meeting you actually asked us if we could be specific, and Rob has got us down now to the point that we're really clear that for the NHS attributable daily delayed rates, we've got to get down from 44 to 17. And for adult social care from 23 to 8. So those are the very specifics, and it does bring a real challenge to us then to know exactly what we've got to do. If you look in the health and social care related press at the moment, there is a general feeling that these new targets that have been in place are going to be very challenging for every system. So it won't just be ours, every system. But saying that, we've got an absolute commitment bring ours down as low as possible. So you will see that there is a working group in place, and I just wanted to refer you back to page 22, which actually starts to show some of the things that we're doing, because I think it was at the last meeting, Councillor Nicholson asked if we could start to put in some of the things that we were actually doing to try and make a difference. And you'll see in the areas where it's talking about delivering the integrated commissioning strategies, that some of the things that have happened so far are 60 health and wellbeing champions are now in place across a number of our residential and nursing homes, which I know Councillor Bowyer has been really pleased to see that piece of work doing. Now you may say, well, what's that got to do with delayed transfers? But it's very much about trying to keep people in their residential and nursing homes instead of them moving into the hospital, because of course we know that for that group of people, if they go into the hospital, they're likely to be there longer and be more difficult to move on. So that's a very positive piece of work. Plan is for 75 more in place by the end of 2017. And then the second one I'd highlight there was a workshop specifically around falls, which again is about trying to prevent those people who've had falls ending up in the hospital, helping the residential and nursing homes. So some of the money that we've had is starting to be invested in some of that prevention work. At the same time, some of the money is being absolutely invested in direct schemes like Discharge to Assess. And what we'll do is we'll bring more information each time into this report so that you can see it building up. So the whole system is focused on getting down to those numbers. Are they very challenging? Yes. You wouldn't expect me to say anything else. And as with the challenges in the system, we will find it very hard to reach them, but we will all be doing our absolute best to get there. The CQC will arrive on site the first week of December, but there is a complete 10-week package around that in terms of all the work that needs to happen and what needs to be supplied, but actually on site will be the first week of December.
Thank you, Carol. That's really helpful, and that sets out both the scale of the challenge and the timing of it as well. Thank you. Right, anybody else, any comments they want to make about this particular aspect, or indeed the performance report itself? Councillor Mrs Bowyer?
Well, it's just really a comment, really. It's that on the delayed transfers of care, we are actually discharging people 7 days a week now, whereas before that was a challenging for us to sort of actually get, not so much us working in there to get people out of hospital at the weekends, but to make sure that the right care packages were in place so as people could safely go on to wherever they needed to go. We are hoping, obviously, that's going to make a lot of difference. But as Carol says, we are sort of like doing our hardest to get as much as we can done, and obviously stop people going into hospital in the first place. If we can do the prevention right, then that's better for everybody.
Yes, okay, understood. Right, anyone else, any other queries, questions? Other than that, I ask you to note the report, I think, and bear that in mind. Our colleagues in scrutiny may want to ask you for some further comments around some of the issues that are flagged up here, so be prepared, and we'll take that as and when it comes. So, happy to note the contents of this report?
Agreed.
Yep, okay, thank you. Right, so that brings us to the end of the meeting this afternoon. Thank you for your time and effort. Thank you.